Hello everyone, it's yet another lazy chat video today. Reason being, I have been very sick. I've only just got my voice back from the whole week, thankfully, and I thought I'd use it because I want to. Anyways, today, this video, unbeknownst to me, I have somehow created a series that I didn't even intend to create. Okay, so I realized too far in that my microphone was no longer on. So I'm going to retell that story, but quicker. So yeah, French people can't drive. I've never almost died so many times in 24 hours than I did in Paris purely because of the driving there. It's insane. And oh my god, I don't even want to get into the whole story again. We almost got rammed. Well, no, we got rammed in an Uber. And then I saw a lady fall because of how fast the cars were going. An old lady, an old French lady who lived in Paris. And her nose was bleeding. So me and cars and Paris, not a good mix. Not a good mix. Anyways, next. The next thing I noticed, and I was so livid about this, their coffee is disgusting. It is so gross. They have the most awful ratio in coffee that I've ever had in my life. I asked for a normal, sweetened, so like with caramel ice latte. At every store that I went to, whether it be at the time a Starbucks or like an independent, it was so gross. It was like drinking milk. It was just milk. It was sweet milk. No coffee. No coffee was fucking in that. And I know that like recipes in each country is kind of different. But then like when I went to other like independent stores and I got coffee, they couldn't do it sweetened. So it wasn't like sweet enough for me. But the ratio was there of like milk and coffee. Like it was a normal latte. And I would just have to add more sugar. So I was just I'm confused. So anyways, disgusting coffee. I was so happy when we came home. I was like, first thing I'm doing is getting a coffee. Awful. America and France have disappointed me on the coffee sides of things, which is shocking. Ugh, disgusting. The next thing, I think something that I'd like to myth bust. A lot of people say French people are rude. I would say that the average French person is not rude. I think actually American people are worse. That should, go without saying. And in my experience, most normal French people that I've like interacted with, whether it's in Bajol or Marseille or in Paris, has been fairly nice. Most, like 90% of them have been nice. So that's a little thing I'd like to myth bust. However, one thing that I do want to talk about is France is like, no, not France, Paris. Paris is like a unlawed city. Like it has no laws. It's like there is no order in that city, and you can really tell. And I know there's a lot going on with their politics, so like, don't try to educate me. I'm aware. I'm just talking about my experience. But it's basically like, so okay, I'll give you an example. In London, we have like the biggest underground tube. What's it called? I can't remember what it's called, but we have like the most trains like ever. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. And it's a thing, like it's not just in London but in the UK. Like there's a British like common courtesy of like when you go to get onto a train, you let the people on it come off first, and then you.
Okay, well, I don't know what's going on with my microphone, so I gave up and I haven't even looked at it, but it's not broken, I just don't know how to use it. So I'm just going to continue, but with this instead. And everyone's going to have to deal with it. Thank you very much for coming to my TED Talk. Anyways, so as I was saying, I'm just going to continue with my list. Yeah, the coffee was awful. Next. One thing we definitely noticed was that, like, I expected it to be diverse. Don't get me wrong. Definitely expected it to be diverse. But it seems that it's actually less French people than... Like, there's more French people on the outskirts of, like, Barja or Marseille than there is in Paris. And I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying I didn't expect that. Because I think, like, London is very diverse, but there is a lot of Londoners here. Like, there is a lot of OG British babies born in London here. So, yeah, I didn't expect that. It was very, like, I feel like I got more of a French vibe outside of Paris than I did in Paris. Another thing we noticed, and this is a great thing, was that their food is amazing. Every meal we got was good. Every single meal was beautiful. It was stunning. It was stunning, darling. Stunning. So tasty. Our hotel, we ate there every night. Like, we didn't even need to go out because their food was incredible. And it was so, oh my God, thinking about it now, I'm getting really hungry. Damn. Really want that now. But on top of that, I feel like you can go into London and, like, meals are quite hit and miss. Whereas, like, here, it was like everywhere we went, we had great food. Doesn't matter how cheap or how expensive, we had great food. Talking about cheap and expensive, yeah, there's no such thing as cheap in Paris. No such thing. The entire place is the most expensive thing ever. More expensive than America, which is very surprising, but also I think it's because the exchange rate is, like, a lot bigger for America, so, like, we actually didn't spend that much when we were there, but because it's smaller between a euro and a pound, it's like we actually did spend as much as we're kind of paying. Yeah, it was £8, €8 for a Coke. And hold on, €8 for water. Every time I say about the Coke, people are so shocked, and then I say the water and they're not shocked. Water, people. Water. What the fuck? We got up and left. I kid you not. They gave us that. We saw that, looked at each other and went, no. And got up and left because it was like, you're joking. You're having a laugh. No. Yeah, I mean, like, all the meals we had, as amazing as they were very expensive as well. But I feel like for the food, it was worth it. I feel like for, like, everything else, it wasn't. Oh, that's another thing I just remembered that was awful about Paris was... So, I mean, there's, like, a homelessness crisis in the UK at the moment because of the cost of living crisis. So, you know, I'm not shocked by that being anywhere else. It's bad in LA and it was bad in Paris, but the worst thing about it in Paris was that a lot of these people had dogs. So these dogs are basically, from what I know, and I'm not saying it because, like, one or two had it, I'm saying every single homeless person we saw, and we saw a lot, every single one had a dog. So basically they obviously use it as a way to, like, make people, like, more likely to give them money. And it's like, first of all, that's like manipulation into bullshit. Like, you being homeless is enough for like people to give you money. You don't need to go and get a dog and then starve that dog. And also, if you can afford a dog, then there's something a little bit fishy there, right? I can't fucking afford a dog. I wish I could. I can't. It was horrible because it was kind of like they get these dogs and they train these dogs to look sad and like not eat a lot, and it's horrible. Like, it's a completely different scenario. Like, there are homeless people here who have dogs, but you can tell that like they've had them for a very long time and they probably became homeless like after having that, like buying that dog, because of the cost of living crisis. Like, because prior to the cost of living crisis, I don't think I ever saw a dog with a homeless person in London. Not to say that people don't do that here, but they do it so much over there that I was horrified. It was like, these animals are literally being abused, and I just hated it so much. There was like 1 or 2 homeless people who were just genuinely homeless. They weren't asking for anything, didn't have any dogs. They were literally like sleeping or doing their own thing. And it's like, it makes you just think a bit. It's like, I don't know, it sounds insensitive, but I know that there are people that fake it, and I'm only talking about those people. And I swear to you, I'm only talking about those people. But I have a thing for animals, man. If you use an animal in any respect to like, and it's harmful to them, it's horrifying. It's disgusting. I wanted to take all the dogs home with me. It's horrifying. And then the worst bit was, I think on our 2nd or 3rd day, we were literally sat in Starbucks in a mall, and a little girl and a little boy. This girl is no older than like 5. And this boy is no older than like 6 or 7, max 7. They come up to us asking for money. They've like rubbed dirt on their faces, and they're asking for money. And it's like, it was in a way that is so clearly like they've been taught to do this. And they like, it wasn't just asking one person. They walked into a Starbucks and asked every single person, sat down. And like, even the little girl, bless her heart, gave me the dirtiest look when we said we didn't have any change, because we don't. We used our Monzo cards, so couldn't literally give any money. But it's horrifying that there are people teaching their children to like scam people, and this is traumatizing to them. And they're probably going to teach their children, like, you know, ignorance breeds ignorance. They're probably going to teach their children to do the same thing, and so on and so forth. And it was just horrible. It was like watching children and animals get used in a way that's so disgusting. I felt really sick to my stomach every single time I saw it. So again, this isn't about actual homeless people, but the people who pretending to be homeless to get money. But anyway, which is, in my opinion, really dumb, because like barely anyone gives money to homeless people. I don't think I saw one person give money to a homeless person in Paris. I've seen it a lot recently in London, because also you can really tell who's homeless and who's not. It's the same people as well that you see. So I think it's really different in that sense. Yeah, it's a sensitive subject, and I just want to make sure that I'm not talking about homeless people. I'm purely talking about scamming, like people who are scammers and like literally traumatizing their animals and children. I just can't. There is no way you can make me feel like that's right in it, like in any way. There's just no way. And then the other thing was, it's such a like, when people talk about Paris, or like you see it in movies and stuff, it's like always spoken about in like it's an artistic, creative place. And I just didn't feel like I was there. Like I went, like our second day, we went to the Louvre. That was so beautiful. We had the best day ever. That area is stunning. Oh my god, it was just so beautiful. We had the best time, honestly, that day. But it was like, aside from the Louvre, which is literally filled with paintings and everything, I couldn't see this artistic, creative place in where these people were talking about. You know, as in, like, in the people, there was no atmosphere. There was no creativity in the way people dress, which is, like, it's Paris. It's supposed to be, like, the center of fashion. And it's, like, I don't know. It just felt very strange. I feel like when I'm in London, no matter where I am, even in the fucking ends, there is a bitch that always looks popping. And obviously, when you're in Central, there's so many different kinds of people. You know, you go to Camden and there's goths. You go to Covent and there's, like, rich people. But, like, some people who have style. And then you've got your basic bitches. And then you've got your, like, roadmen. And, like, you've got a fucking diverse, like, set of people. And a bunch of them have a style. Yeah, it was non-existent in Paris. And also, I will say, I said this in LA, about LA. No one in LA has any individuality. There's definitely more individuality in Paris than LA, but in terms of individuality, I feel like London is just by far the best I think it's gonna get. So yeah, it just didn't feel like there was no atmosphere, no creativity. And you know, like, here you walk into, like, an indie cafe and, you know, there's art up on the walls of locals, and, you know, they've got, like, a set kind of vibe. You know, there's music on and things like that. And I just feel like that was nowhere in Paris. Like, I don't remember hearing music once, which is crazy. And, you know, that when we went into loads of indie cafes, none of them had art. And I know that's such a weird thing to point out, but, like, it was just, like, bare walls. It was, like, I don't know, it was so strange. It's just so weird. It's just, I didn't find it a very creative place. And I'm sure that we didn't go to places that were very beautiful and creative and artistic. But I'm 100, what my point is trying to say is, like, in London, you don't need to go to a specific place to find that. You know? Like, most of London is very creative, very artistic. There's an atmosphere. People are individuals, you know. Yeah, literally just yesterday I went to an art fair. My friend was had her art out, and there was so many different types of people. And it's like, you know, I feel obviously that stuff happens everywhere. Well, in most first world places, you know, Western places. I'm not saying it doesn't. It's just, like, I feel like it's an everyday thing in London. Like, no matter where you go, there's something creative and artistic going on. Don't get me wrong, it's still very, like, white, capitalistic, rich, male, office, you know, like, there's a lot of that in certain areas, but I feel like in most areas it's very young and creative, and I love that about London. Yeah, I couldn't, there was no atmosphere in Paris, none. People were, like, busy to the point of they didn't give a fuck about you. They didn't give a fuck if they ran into you, stepped on you, if you were pregnant, if you were old, if they just killed you. They literally, there was no care in the world, none. Whereas, like, it's a bit different here, you know, like, there's a bit more of care. Don't get me wrong, British people don't give a fuck, but at the same time there is, like, a common courtesy of, like, oh, sorry if I bumped into you, and, like, watching where you go and that kind of stuff. And I think the last point as well is, like, we went to, if you ever go to Paris, do not ever go to La Chapelle. We went to La Chapelle because we had to go there to go somewhere else. And we also were like, oh my god, my name's Chapel, like, how funny, the Chapel, do you know what I mean? So we were like, ha ha ha. I have never seen a place so, like, that is the equivalent of what we have here, which is called Edmonton. Ends, we call them ends. It's where it's much poorer, you know, the city doesn't look after it, and by the city I mean, like, the government, they put no money into it. It's very, like, high in crime, and again, all of this, in my opinion, is to blame on the government in every city that this happens to, which is every city. But it was like, there was a situation where my boyfriend had to go get something by himself. And then when he went away, like when he walked away, a bunch of men surrounded me. I'm a tough ass bitch. I looked at them and I was like, as if, and walked away, and they let me. Which is a strange sentence to say. And then my boyfriend came back and we were like, yeah, no, this is a dodgy place. Let's get the fuck out of here. It was very, 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 very bad in terms of like crime and stuff. Like we were not safe, and we knew we weren't safe. We didn't feel safe. And the thing is like, what I'm saying is we have that in London as well. Put me in Edmonton and I'm running out. You know what I mean? Put me in, is it Croydon? Yeah, I think it's Croydon. Put me in Croydon, I'm running the opposite way. But what was strange about that to us was that, one, people weren't discreet about being weirdos, like scammers or dodgy. Like, I feel like here it's very easy to tell who's a scammer and who's dodgy, but they're trying to be discreet about it. Whereas there they were like, no, I'm straight up like this. And two, that was right in the center of Paris, right in the center. Whereas here we're very used to the outskirts. Edmonton, Croydon are outskirts, they're not center. So, you know, they bleed into outside of London. We're used to that kind of structure, that like infrastructure, I guess, of how that works, of society just being like, the center of cities are like where all the money is put into by the government, and, you know, rich people can live there and all that shit. Whereas there it was like, one street was beautiful and you looked to your left and there was no money put into this street, you know, like no care, no nothing. Crime is high on this street, and you look to your right and, you know, rich people live here. It was very like strange to be able to see that in one place. Like here it's very distinctively like separated, like I said, like they're further out, you know. It's just the way that our government has like built things basically. And so yeah, we were just not used to like that infrastructure. So it was a bit of like it was interesting to say the least. Overall we had a good time. I just think I wouldn't go again, but would I go to Barjot and south of France again? Yeah, definitely 100% I would. I loved it. I think like the myths about French people were so funny because they're not true, but everything else that no one talks about is true. Like how you literally get run over every day in Paris, like it's insane. Yeah, I know there's a lot going on with like their politics and their government and everything, and I'm not saying like any of my experience or like what I witnessed was like at the fault of the civilians. I blame everything on the government anyway. But yeah, it's just, I think it's apparently, according to French people, it's gone downhill since, like Paris has gone downhill since COVID, which, you know, is valid as fuck, I get it. So yeah, it was strange. It was an odd, I don't know, experience, but we had a good time mostly, and yeah, I wouldn't go again. Unless I had to for like work or something, I just wouldn't go again. And I don't really recommend it. Whereas like LA is a strange motherfucking place. It's my second home, but it's a strange fucking place, and it has more negatives than positive. But do I love it? Yes, I do. I would go every year. And yes, I have my family there. Shut the fuck up. That's not just why. It was partially why. But yeah, it's just I wouldn't actively choose to go to Paris again. And the next place that I want to go to that I've never been to is Italy. Specifically Crema, for obvious reasons. And I'm scared for that to let me down, but because I'm Greek, I'm like, it's very similar to Greece. They're like right next to each other, so I feel like I know what to expect, you know what I mean? So anyways, this is interesting. Again, don't take any offense to what I'm saying. It's just my opinion on my experience there. And I'm not judging anyone who likes Paris or wants to live in Paris or whatever. You do you. I'm just saying, personally, it was not the best, and that's okay. Anyways, I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.